Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, where the state of our industry is indecisive. So let's get right to what everyone is talking about. In New York City real estate, few decisions generate more confusion or more debate than the choice between a condo and a co-op. On paper, the differences seem straightforward, but in reality, buyers quickly discover that this decision touches everything from lifestyle and financing to governance, resale flexibility, and long-term value. Condos offer autonomy, liquidity, and fewer restrictions, but often at a premium. Co-ops, which still dominate much of the city's housing stock, can provide more space and value, yet come with board scrutiny, financial disclosures, and rules that can surprise even the most seasoned buyer. So in 2026, why are buyers still struggling with this choice? Is it about control versus community, flexibility versus stability, or simply understanding how these two ownership models actually work in today's market? Today, we're going to break down the real-world trade-offs between condos and co-ops in New York and what buyers need to know, what they often misunderstand, and how to make the right decision for their goals, not just their budget. And here with me on set today is Anna Shagaloff from Brown Harris Stevens, Jordan Shea from Douglas Elliman, and also from Douglas Elliman, Tracy Hammersley, and they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate, so let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. Listen, if you recognize the familiar faces here, it's because they are familiar faces.
Amped up. OG.
I don't know how we're going to get through this show, but we'll
Very
try.
happy to be here.
These guys used to sit with me almost every week for years and years as a regular panel, minus a couple of others, and we had the greatest time, the best laughs, the best
Our radio
numbers.
family. Yes.
Our radio family. It was amazing, and getting them together, we're all so busy, is like a treat for me. I just totally enjoy it. But today we're going to talk about, I'm sure in addition to lots of other things, we're going to talk about co-ops and condos.
Oh, we're sticking to the script, baby. Don't you worry.
And there we have it.
See, we're already not We've been advised.
Already we're off. Off on a
Did
tangent.
I tell you how good your hair looks, Anna? Thank you. Sorry, Vince, back to you.
That's okay. So co-ops and condos, I mean, we sell them, regularly here in town in addition to townhouses. But there's always a drama. There's always a dilemma. There's always a question about which is better, what should I do, whatever, price-wise, it's lifestyle-wise, et cetera. So, Jordan, let me start with you. Why does the condo versus co-op decision still create, so much confusion in this town? First-time buyer, I want to get out there, I want to buy something. I hear about co-ops, I hear about condos. I don't really know much about either. Why is there such confusion, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think it's the ownership structure of a co-op is sort of bananas, frankly speaking. And to anyone else, if you're not from New York, it's sort of crazy, right? So that's one hurdle, is the explanation to it. And then you have to adequately explain it to your purchaser about the pluses and minuses of purchasing in a co-op. Frankly speaking, to your question, it all comes down to, I think, affordability on the entry and saleability on the exit. Mm-hmm. Really.
Well put.
Absolutely.
And what sort of your timeline is, and post-closing liquidity, all these different factors that sort of play into it. But the first hurdle is education and teaching a purchaser the basics and the fundamentals of what a co-op really is and what they're actually buying and what they're getting themselves into.
Tracy, so, from a buyer's thinking, what do they think they understand about, either a co-op or a condo, and what do they generally get wrong most of the time?
Sure. So
in their thinking process.
I always start off with, okay, if you already know what this is, stop me, but I'm going to give you just the 5-second high level.
Anyway.
A condo is, for most people who are coming from other places, it's very similar to a house. It's real estate, it's real property. Mm-hmm. A co-op is personal property. You're buying shares of stock in the corporation that owns the actual building.
Just what I teach every week.
Exactly. Now, I will say a lot of times it's not a choice. It actually, your budget will dictate, because I think you guys will agree, it's a fair rule that most co-ops are usually still 20 to 25% less expensive than the equivalent condo,
Correct.
Bar none. So that budget might be the factor right out the gate, or someone who is a foreigner. And while there are co-ops that allow purchase in an LLC, a limited family trust for a foreign buyer, foreign national, usually that's not the rule for most co-ops. So you are then you must buy a condo, or if you're looking to invest from day one, that's going to be 95%. That's going to be a condo as well. There are very few co-ops that are investor friendly. So for that, it's not even depending on the buyer's stated objective. It's not a matter of what they want or what they do or don't understand. It's what we, as their trusted real estate professionals, can advise them. You are only going to be looking at co-ops. You are only going to be looking at condos, given what your motivation is.
And Anna, it's probably similar to all of us, when you start with a buyer for the first time, whether they're a first-time buyer or a seasoned buyer, and they ask you, because I get asked a question all the time, I'd like to see this apartment, Vince, because it looks like it's so much cheaper. It happens to be a co-op, but we know the difference. How do you have that conversation with a buyer who you think or may think can't afford to get into a co-op because of the requirements? We'll talk about that a little later.
I think it kind of goes back to what Jordan was saying about education. They really just need to know that in order to start the co-op process, number one, I need to see a financial statement, because I don't want them to see anything that they can't actually close on.
Smart.
It's not about them and their wealth and who they are. It is just the first thing they look at is the finances, the post-close liquidity. Most of them, a lot of them are actually saying they don't have a set formula, but we all, as realtors, we know that they do. They want about 24 months of post-close liquidity.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
I've seen some that are okay with 18, but it's very rare. And you need 25 to 28% debt to income ratio. And then you have to break all of that down with them, and you have to just explain it has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with the formulations that certain co-ops, and some are more lenient, some are not. If they want to see it, can they get a gift from family? What can they do to
If the
supplement?
building, if that particular building even allows a gift, right? Or if you can season it in a bank statement.
Can they co-purchase?
Or,
Can they, buy for somebody? Is it a parent buying for a child? There's so many different scenarios that many co-ops actually do allow, but you can't always say as a blanket statement they do or they don't, because co-op boards change, co-op rules change. So no matter how well you know a building, you kind of need to go back to basics, talk to the managing agent, see if you can get any sort of details from the board as to what they have experienced. One bad experience for a board can change all of their rules.
Yeah.
everything that's been set in stone.
One bad turn down that's been contested and maybe, it's gone into litigation or anything like that can change everything for a co-op. So for us, we always have to start at square one for each individual building. But to tell that buyer that they maybe can't afford it, it's not necessarily about what they feel they can afford. It's about what the building will allow. And then there's also, if they're financing, because the banks will always tell them what they can afford, but they don't take the criteria that a co-op allows.
A bank's debt to income ratio can be significantly higher than any co-op is ever going to allow. So.
Exactly.
But you can even qualify for a mortgage, and we talk about this all the
Exactly.
time. Qualify for a mortgage, and the bank says yes, the underwriter, the mortgage broker,
Right.
and then the building says no.
Correct.
The co-op board says no. So
banks
it's
will allow
a
an
little bit of
almost
all of that.
50% DTI, and that's way higher than that 28 or lower
and,
percent a co-op will.
If it's somebody that is buying for the first time in New York, you really have to take them back to brass tacks. If you can even get to that lender and say, look, they're looking at co-ops. This is how, because not all the lenders understand it.
Correct.
No, they don't. Jordan used the term, the structure of co-ops earlier, bananas, and I 100% underscore
we
that
all do.
and agree with it.
Absolutely. But yet there's still about 70% of available apartment inventory.
Well, hold on. But let me ask you,
them.
so if they are tough, right, why do they have so much authority? Why have we as an industry given them so much authority? People ask me all the time, is that going to change? And how should buyers think about that? As Anna just said, look, it's not necessarily about you. It's about what the building wants and what the co-op board's going to allow. And, I've had buyers say to me, but I still want to live there.
Sure. Let's
So
not look
why
at
do
this
they
with
have
just...
why do boards have
to get
so much
creative.
control?
But there's not, you don't have to look at it from a negative point of view. I mean, during the financial crisis of 2008, there were so many foreclosures and bankruptcies outside of New York City, not in the co-op world where, a CEO might have lost a job, but he had to have 2 times the purchase price left over in liquid assets. They weren't going to cry poor or foreclosure, even though they lost a significant job. So there is the good to that side of the co-ops with their stringent financial requirements. It's also, the positive is that you're living in more of a community that condos might tend to be. As a proud condo owner, because 1099, 100% commission, base gal for going on 23 years now, very few co-ops would welcome me with open arms. So I wanted to go and had to go the condo route. But there's a lot of good to a co-op as well. Let's not just focus on the negative. The other good is in our industry, it is a reason, it's a real case why people need to work with real estate professionals. It is the rare person that can just go, no matter how on top of their game they think they are, and buy solo without using an agent and put together that beast of a co-op board package for all the things that Anna was talking about, the little fine, things behind the scenes that you have to go through with the boards and the property manager.
And Jordan, based on what Tracy just said, there are pluses or benefits to living in a co-op, owning a co-op. What are they compared to, for those who can qualify and get in? What are the benefits of living in a co-op, or are there?
I mean, okay, so usually the barrier to entry from a sales price is significantly lower. I think we can all agree that's usually 25 to 30% lower.
Or you think even 30%? I found like 20 to 25.
Yeah,
I think it can. I think it can be at times. The
Always
housing.
have to disagree with me, don't you?
The housing stock is generally in very, very established neighborhoods. So that if you have a purchaser who wants to live in, quote, a trophy neighborhood, let's say along the park, right? Central Park, if they want to live.
Or West Village.
Central Park West, or, the Upper East Side on 5th, or if they want to live, Greenwich Village or the West Village. You're really, for the most part, predominantly co-ops. So it's location driven as well. And to your point earlier, what's a good thing? A lot of the financial requirements, a significant percentage of these co-ops have common sense financial requirements.
Yes.
Frankly speaking. They're not particularly onerous. These are things that I would advise my buyers anyway.
Just as
you should be putting around 30% down. You should have a parachute of a couple years post-closing to cover yourself in the worst case scenario. You should not be purchasing, just as a general rule, with the idea that you're going to be renting this out, because that's a fool's errand. Right? Correct. That's just, it's not sound. And you probably don't want to live in a building where everybody is renting out their apartment after the fact, because it'll be devaluing the asset. Hence the restrictions on renting it out.
But as we all know, though, Jordan, I mean, what you're saying about the financial, qualifications and how you should structure your application to, whatever, we all know that it's not always based on finances. And co-op boards will turn you down, even if you have, excuse me, millions of dollars in post-close liquidity, which is, the operative term here. Why do they do that? What are the other issues surrounding a board turndown?
Well, so this is the part where there's the disconnect with the, quote, too much power that boards have. Right. Which is where they, up until now, which there's obviously bills being passed and put forward to where this will eventually no longer be the case.
Correct.
That you can have a turn down for no reason. Right, where it can be,
or they don't have to disclose.
They don't have to disclose.
Or whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah, there's a reason.
There's a reason. Right. Quote,
yeah.
no reason.
Right.
Right. They don't like you. You through your interview. There's
you asked too many annoying questions.
Right.
You had Tourette's.
You
were
seem-
an
you-
unpleasant
by their
potential
broker.
neighbor.
You seem like you'll be a pain. You seem, your point.
We all coach our buyers beforehand, even the ones that we have had wonderful, pleasant interactions with during the buying process, to say, look, the co-op interview board is not the time to be jokester, not to show off your sense of humor. No one got turned down for being too boring. Do not ask. What am I saying? Do not ask any questions unless it goes with the natural flow of
too young.
conversation.
You're
It's not
too
a job
young.
interview.
You're too old. You don't fit the racial profile that the board usually. I mean, there's a lot that
Playing
honestly.
both,
Yes,
playing
absolutely.
both sides here, I can say, well, so, why would I want to live in a building like that when they're so fussy and so particular and so whatever? And it should be based on finances, typically, but yet, I don't know if I like them. I don't know if I like their religion. I don't know if I like their job. I mean,
Well,
I've
now,
had
they can't
two
turn
attorneys.
someone down for religion.
They do.
But we don't
They do.
know whether
I know.
I had 2 attorneys get turned down in the 3 board turndowns I've had in 23 years.
no.
2 of them were attorneys, and of course, I'm not going to tell you why, but we all know why, because attorneys can be litigious.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they don't want to deal with that. Religion, unfortunately, yes, it happens. They're never going to admit to it. So when you're talking to buyers, even if they're qualified, I sometimes take the position, you know what? I think you're going to be better off in a condo. We'll talk about subleasing and stuff later.
Wait, can
And-
I just,
go
sorry,
ahead,
just
go ahead.
to
No, go ahead.
finish on that. I mean, I do think so I've been in the business since 2003, and it is interesting to see that it used
You're
to
1
be.
year behind me. I'm
I know, right? I
2002.
know. We're such
didn't realize.
babies. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, babies. There we
Such
go.
experienced babies. It is really interesting to look back and say there were certainly some co-ops just known, especially on the Upper East Side, for example. It really was not encouraged for you to bring a gay couple to be presented because they were going to be turned down. And now
Absolutely.
the president of the co-op board is gay. Like, it's just interesting how that shift has happened in 2 decades.
You're absolutely correct.
Then that's not something you could really talk about with your buyers, right?
Nope.
But yet you kind of had to
Well,
know that, and how did you manage
And you're
that?
right. That change is becoming more and more obvious as we move forward. And hopefully, 5 more years or 10 more years down the road, it'll be a whole different ballgame. But we'll see about that. But Anna, let's talk about the monthly cost differential between, both condos and co-ops. For example, I think when I'm working with buyers and coaching and counseling buyers these days, their biggest concern, believe it or not, is not really the purchase price anymore.
Yeah.
They're really more concerned about what is it going to cost me monthly. Maintenance has increased year over year, in some cases double digit. Real estate taxes, if it's a condo, have skyrocketed. Assessments seem to be in almost every building these days. And now everybody's adopting, or most buildings are adopting, the flip tax scenario. So when you're a first-time buyer or a seasoned buyer, whatever, and you're sitting there and you're calculating what your closing costs are going to be first, and then what your monthlies are going to be, a lot of buyers have said to me, hey, I got to sit out for a while because unless prices go down, monthly prices go down, and we know they're not.
We know they're never. That's not going to happen.
It's very rare.
What do we do with that?
Well, I mean, if you're that price sensitive, then co-op really should be the route that you go if you are passable. The maintenance typically tends to be all in because the taxes are included in the maintenance. Typically tend to be lower than having common charges and taxes. And the common charges and taxes kind of run in parallel to each other. They have nothing to do with each other.
No.
So they don't cross paths. So they can go up significantly, one because of the Fed, or one because of, the just inflation for the building and what it costs to pay the doorman, or whatever, or if there's a doorman. So if you're that price sensitive, hopefully you can pass a co-op board, and that's kind of where you're going to benefit. Closing costs, you are definitely better off with a co-op. Condos tend to be very high. I mean, then there's new developments, that's a whole different animal. But the closing costs for a co-op tend to be a little bit more palatable. I think the main thing to explain to co-op buyers, and even some condos nowadays, I mean, they're not the easiest thing in the world, as they used to be.
They're becoming very tough.
There's some co-op like condos that they ask for things that they actually technically can't.
Let's call them ego-driven condos.
Yes.
Indeed.
We wish we were a co-op, but we're not.
It's very important for them to understand they are not alone. Everyone else that lives in that building has gone through it.
Yeah.
Once
Correct.
you are done with this ludicrous process, nobody bothers you. They leave you alone. They let you live their life.
Correct.
I have owned in a co-op for 10 years. I absolutely love my community. I love the fact that I have a maintenance team that can come in and help me, with my clogged sink. Or, the minor things.
I'm always with my handyman. Can you come and change my shower head, please?
I mean, with condos,
I do have that in a condo
as
as
Tracy,
well.
as Tracy said, condo ownership is more like owning real property, owning a home.
100%.
Co-op. And
simple
yes, a
ownership.
lot of condos have an on-site super, handyman, things like that. But in a co-op, you're not responsible for covering costs for most of that stuff.
Right.
If your window, if you have condensation in your window, your co-op is covering that. They're replacing it. That could be a very
Not
costly.
everyone, Anna. You're in a good co-op.
I
that's
am.
doing
I
that,
happen to be in a
actually, I
really,
have to
really
tell
great
you.
co-op.
Yeah, a lot of it's on the owners.
It's not all about. It's not all about the finances. It's about do you see yourself there? Is this where you're
Lifestyle.
If are you
Lifestyle
planting
versus
roots?
anything else.
Are you planting roots, or do you need the flexibility if you're going to be like relocated to London for
Right.
5 years.
Right.
And in a lot of co-ops, depending on what kind of shareholder you are, they will give some leniency and some flexibility.
Some exceptions to the strict
Some
subletting
exception
rules.
to the
Absolutely.
rule, as long as you have like a really good tenant who is treating it like a home as opposed
Correct.
to a party palace.
And I think Jordan said it before, the difference between condos sometimes and co-ops is very transient in a condo. A lot of the units, I shouldn't say most, are rented. And a lot of people, especially families, don't want to have their children or themselves exposed to people coming and going on a regular basis every year, every 2 years, whatever. It gets a little daunting.
And in a co-op, sorry,
No,
can I interrupt the host?
Go.
In a co-op, you also know that your neighbor is financially sound.
Well, that's what it
You
is.
know that everyone in the building, I mean, it
Has
happens.
been through the same rigorous scrutiny.
It happens where, someone's life takes a downturn and they can't afford their monthlies, but much less often than in a condo. And then you have that litigation situation much, much less. It's New York. There's like litigation in almost every building from one level or
always.
another.
Always.
But in a co-op, you know that your neighbors are as sound 90% of the time as you are.
All right, we have to take a quick break. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about board packages, a little bit about the financing and down payments and stuff and structure, as we alluded to before. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners. From a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back.
Wow.
We're talking about the differences between co-ops and condos, but there's one thing that's the same
And only
in,
that.
in both
That's all we're talking
transactions, and that is a board package, okay? And we'll talk about the differences on doing a board package for a co-op and a board package for a condo. Now, there are down payment requirements, as we discussed before the break, in co-ops, financing rules, debt-to-income ratios, as I think Anna mentioned before, post-closing liquidity, big in a co-op more so than in a condo. In a condo, I don't think they even pay attention. But can we kind of just wax poetic over these things? I mean, when I sit down to do I'm doing a condo package later after the show, easy breezy.
Amazing.
But when I sit down to do a co-op package, I get very stressed because I think I'm good enough, but not. Because
It always takes longer than you think.
It does, and I just never know sometimes if we're doing the right thing. What about financing is imperative in a co-op? We touched on it a little bit before the break, but give us a little lowdown. Financing, down payment requirements, debt-to-income ratio, 28% these days, used to be a little lower, 23, 25%.
And there
Now
are
it's
some
increasing.
that you could get away with 29 depending on the overall financial
Explain,
picture,
though,
right?
first of all, for the
No
audience.
higher than 30.
Right.
Explain, though, what debt-to-income ratio is for those who do not understand that term.
You're
in a
looking
co-op.
at me, so I sense that one's for me, Vince.
Yes,
okay,
dear.
so it is that you are taking all of your monthly or annual expenses,
Correct.
and that would be mortgage, maintenance, whether you're financing, if
Your
you're student
household
loans,
expenses.
that kind of thing, exactly, divided by your annual income.
Correct.
And it's funny because, again, like with us, if you don't report it, you haven't earned it, and that's been a big part of the education process with buyers. That I make $1 million, but what do your tax returns say?
Right.
And that is that every single thing. I also like in the financial statement, which has your income as well as your assets and liabilities. It's a snapshot of a point in time. You have to be able to verify it basically to the penny. And so, if you're saying that you make $1 million, I better see documentation of such, or else we can only put the 800,000 or the 500,000 that you actually report.
Luckily now they do allow CPA letters. They do
Correct.
allow explanation letters. It's not just about what
Especially
you
if
can
you're
support
before a
with,
tax
like,
return
formal
year,
documents.
right? Like this
Yeah.
time of year preparing a board
Yeah.
package, you're
And
not doing your
also,
2025 tax returns yet.
Yeah, and so many people are just not in a straightforward linear line of work
Correct.
anymore.
We are not.
Correct.
You
We're
have to get
1099,
you
right?
have to
So,
get
you know.
creative.
Exactly.
You have to get creative.
gotta get
But
very-
I've
As
got
long
a
as
buyer.
it's a CPA,
She
it's
has
okay.
4 different income streams. She Airbnbs her investment property in the Catskills. She has a regular salaried W-2 job, and then she consults. And getting the proof of that consulting, it's been a little struggle for this co-op board. So
of
fun
course.
times.
Well, multiple kind of incomes. Like I teach, I do real estate,
Exactly.
and I consult also.
We're not just
on the
one-trick
side.
ponies. Come on.
We're not, but all 1099s, of course. But I mean, it's a lot of stuff for people to absorb. But
Actually, Gina, and to that point of what I'm correcting myself, yes, I do that sometimes. I actually have had some buyers. I know, if only you could see that beautiful boy. I have had some buyers who have actually had to accelerate doing their taxes like months before they would need to for the to be able to show to a co-op board that this was what they made for the prior year.
why is it like going to the dentist and having 2 teeth pulled, not 1 but 2, when you're asking a buyer, Jordan, for information that is necessary or required in the board package, financial statements, IRS forms, blah, blah, blah. It's always like a struggle and a half. Even when you explain to them
I was just
and
gonna
set
say,
the expectation, they say, I don't want to do that. Why do I need to do that?
You can't prepare someone enough.
No, you cannot.
Well, I mean, this is from the onset. From day one, this is part of the education process. I paint the worst possible picture of what a
Exactly.
co-op is before we even really start looking.
And then you sell them a common sense co-op, and it's okay.
And then I sell them like a very generic co-op, right? But no, I just tell people it's very terrible and it's awful, and you will hate the process, and you'll blame me. But just remember, I told you.
I don't want this information. I'm not asking for this.
I told you
How many
not to
times have
buy
I been
in this
blamed
thing.
on that?
I
Right.
told you not to buy this. So if you end up doing it, it's your fault.
Someone told me
Right.
at the very beginning, and I've regurgitated this many times, that buying in a co-op is like stripping down completely naked and
Oh,
doing
my
a 360 in
goodness.
front
That
of the
is-
board.
it's very true.
And that's very true, right? So you say that.
I use that
like-
analogy all the time when I'm talking to buyers.
I
who
feel
are going in front
awkward
of a
using
board.
that analogy, so I
That's
like
a little,
like it.
that's a
Why
little
you beeped
strange,
out
to
for
be
that?
clear.
But-
But you know,
I liken it to pledging
by
a
the-
What am I going to
sorority.
see?
I
Oh,
didn't say
dear.
bend over when you're naked.
But the thing about it,
I'd liken it
though,
to pledging a
but the thing
sorority.
about it is that they're in for 10% already. So if they don't want to do it, then that's fine. You don't have to do it. You just cost yourself whatever your down payment is. That's fine. We don't have to do this.
Or those who want to, circumvent the agent and submit the package on their own.
Yes.
I had that
Oh
happen
God!
once.
Yes.
That was I've had 2 board turn downs. That was one.
Mine too.
And I said
It didn't have to be that
good.
way.
No, I said good.
That
I'm
was
glad you
that
learned
was
your
one of
lesson.
mine,
I will
too.
not help you on the second round.
I don't need anybody to know my information. I'm going to submit it myself. Okay, you do that.
How about Google me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Have
Right?
them Google me.
Yeah, there you have it.
How about the buyer's agent? You're the listing agent, and the buyer's agent understands that you have to have final sign off and approval on the board package. Have you worked with some testy agents like that?
Always.
Oh,
Yeah, I
always.
now have my
Always.
attorneys put it into the contract that the listing agent has to have final approval before any package
I
is
do
submitted
that.
to the
I do
board.
for a condo.
You must do that. Yes,
I do that for a condo
Absolutely.
and a co-op.
Yes, agreed.
Because it's my listing. It's my
I
seller.
always defer
own
to the listing agent, even if I have more
100%.
experience. I
100%.
respect that,
Of
but there's
course,
some
absolutely.
out there that do not, to their detriment.
We talked about how intimidating co-op boards can be, and some buildings, Jordan, you mentioned, Fifth Avenue, Central Park West, Madison Avenue, whatever. I remember when I was a youngster, before real estate, and I was buying apartments, to live in, whatever. I remember going out with my Corcoran broker,
Yes.
who, God rest her soul, she was a lovely woman, and we would be driving around going to the next appointment, and I'd say, "Oh, you see that building, Fran? I want to live in that building." She'd say, "You can't live there," and I'd say, "Oh, Fran, look at that! You can't live there." And so finally, I said to
Anna
her,
never told you that when she was your broker.
"No."
I mean, I would never, because then we'd stop pounding the pavement together, and that would not be fun.
She was my broker. That's why I'm in this business. Anyway, so I'd be like, why is she telling me I can't live in that building? Right? What are some of the reasons we kind of touch on it lightly, but there are, social register buildings, on certain blocks, on certain avenues where if you're not somebody, you can't live in them.
Where
There
the
are
reference
also-
letters actually matter. Like for most of it, it's like,
Well, they
what?
all
you-
100% matter.
But there's something like you actually have to carefully select who the person is who's writing them, as opposed to just someone who's known you for 5 to 10 years, and it's not a relative.
And sometimes it can backfire.
Correct.
I actually, I mentioned I had 2 turn downs. My other turn down was the son of a very, very well-known fashion designer.
Okay.
And you should have seen these reference letters. I mean, I don't know if I can be like name dropping who they are. I'm not going to. But we've all heard of all of them.
Sure.
And that actually worked against him
They thought he was being too
They
name
thought he was
droppy.
being too name droppy.
And it was going to be like a bold face name building kind of thing.
Well,
Paparazzi.
his broker and I had the listing. His broker and I both said you really should not be applying to a 5-unit co-op in Soho.
Oh no.
But he insisted. He loved the listing. He insisted on doing it, and the other broker and I were like, we have to honor what he wants to do.
Well, I was going to say,
so sorry you saw it happen and you had to watch it happen.
Well,
but only 2 in 25 years.
That's
so.
amazing. That's
but
less
the
than
other
me.
side
And
of
both
that
of them
coin
warranted.
is that there are celebrated people, regardless of movie, TV, sports, whatever, who are not welcomed in buildings.
Correct.
Right? As
Yeah.
you're
Oh, yeah.
indicating.
Sure.
They, co-ops just don't want them. Why?
They don't want the media
don't want the
attention.
attention.
They
Madonna
don't
was
want the
turned
media.
down,
They don't want the
right? They don't want
paparazzi.
all
They
the-
don't want
yeah.
the fans standing in the street. Because once you find out where somebody lives,
Yes.
I had another client who I had
Condos do
a
the
really
same
hard
thing.
time getting into a building. It was for a rental, but had a really hard time getting her into this building, but I got her in. And a year or two later, there was some hoopla about her private life, and there was paparazzi around the building.
Yeah.
All day,
Yep.
every day,
I mean, no one
and
wants
it was a
that.
lot of drama.
No.
Yeah.
And they edged her out of the building, and I had to find her
That
something else.
stinks. Yeah. I mean,
Well, I don't know. Is it so
got the
bad to walk
business,
out of a
but-
building and have someone
Yeah,
snap
but
your
I'd
picture?
rather
It's
she
like,
have a pleasant life.
why is that so bad?
God bless
Well, for
Taylor
the other
Swift.
residents,
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah,
so.
they don't.
God
yeah.
bless Taylor Swift. She owns in a condo. She owns many apartments in this condo, and she bought the townhouse next door for $20 million to house her 5
Yeah.
SUVs.
Yeah.
So she goes outside the second floor apartment that she owns that is connected to the townhouse. So that's why you don't see the paparazzi pictures anymore.
Right.
But like, isn't that insane that she had to go to such lengths? I don't think it's overkill given who she is. Like, that's crazy though.
It's
God
very
bless her.
crazy. Let's talk
She made
about
a choice.
She made a
She
choice,
did.
of course.
God bless her.
Let's talk about rejections. People say to me, are co-op boards still rejecting people as fast and furious as they always did? Has it calmed down a little bit? What's the gig? I mean, are they rejecting people?
Do you know what I have been hearing more recently in some of my recent showings? Okay, so we know the market is what it is, but the co-op's just not going to accept this buyer at that purchase price. So we have gotten to a point where that is a reason, right? The person's financials are impeccable. They give a good interview, but the board deems the price as too low for it's devaluing
100%,
their shares of stock.
100%.
And so there have
That's a
been some
biggie.
situations,
That's
but
a
I'm hearing
biggie.
more of this more recently.
Yeah.
And there have been times of the seller concessions of the contract price, the
exactly.
close price that's recorded is X, but behind the scenes, the net price was cheaper for the buyer.
Yep.
They got a credit back.
I just had a conversation with a
is a new
seller.
development.
Because that's a real
tactic
fear.
all day
Yeah,
long.
sure.
Oh, 100%. But I just had a conversation with a buyer who we were on the market for a while, first time for me in a very long time that I was struggling to sell this
Sure.
place. And the seller actually said, Vince, let's just lower it down to as low as we can. And I said, we can't do that. I said, because the building is not going to allow it.
Correct.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean? So I had to explain why the board would worry about the integrity of the price per square foot in the building.
Correct.
They're not going to allow it. Fortunately, we got an accepted offer and a contract out a week later.
Oh, thank God.
But they were willing to come down to what they thought the market could bear based on my, a conversation.
That's a real reason why boards have turned down people
And
before.
boards are like, no, especially in co-ops, they're like condos, but especially in co-ops. No, we can't, because when I go to sell my place in the same line,
Yeah.
I'm going to have the same problem.
So you
Well,
can't-
with
And they're
condos,
right.
they can't do anything about it.
No, they can't.
Right.
But well,
they can buy it.
Well, they buy it.
Right.
I
But
had that
then-
situation where they had to buy the apartment.
Right, but it's the same price as they have to buy it for
Correct.
the contract price.
Right.
Correct. Which ownership model, co-op or condo, is better? You mentioned something before, Jordan, about resale. Which is easier to resell? You buy it, you get approved, you move in, you live happily ever after. 5 years, 6 years go by, you want to sell it. What model is easier, co-op or
Condos
condo?
tend to be easier because they're quicker. They're obviously a lot less invasive, given everything that
Sure.
we've already talked about with co-ops.
Right.
Bigger buyer pool. I mean, definitely any foreign
but I'm
nationals,
finding
LLCs,
I'm finding
et
in this
cetera.
market it's really just price based.
Yeah.
I'm finding that people are not as. I mean, yes, you have to prepare them. Exactly as Jordan said before, you're going to hate me. The whole process, you're going to blame. I mean, the whole thing, but it's incentivized. Pricing wise, it's incentivized.
It absolutely is. And again, I was just on the market for a very long period in a condo, but for a whole host of reasons, interest rates and whatever else has been
Monthlies
have been going on out there. But you're right. I mean that's a big to do. What Let's talk a little bit about subletting, because we all know, and Anna, you indicated it before, in some co-ops, they will allow it if it's the right renter, if it's the right package, whatever. But in a lot of them, they will not. But in condos, you don't ever have to.
Can sublet from day one, except
one,
for
you
what
never
is
have
it
to move in.
on West 110th Street, 301 West 110th Street. They don't allow subletting. It's like the one condo I've ever encountered.
Is that right?
I don't know if it's changed now.
I've seen one too. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
It's a condo?
but yes, but
Okay.
99.9999%, yes, you can sublet from day one. That is one of the beauties of a condo.
Let's talk about subletting. You all kind of alluded to it as we started our conversation here. I buy a co-op, I qualify, I move in, I live for X amount of years, I get a job transfer, and I need to go to the West Coast for 3 years or longer.
Sure.
I don't really want to sell my asset, though, because I know it's appreciating.
You want to come back?
I want to come back at some point, maybe. But in the meantime, I want to rent it. Why can't I?
Well, it really does depend. I mean, there are some buildings that are after you've lived there for, if you've owned for 2 to 5 years, you can then sublet an unlimited number of years, each year, a year at a time with board approval. Mostly after you've lived 2 years, you can sublet 2 of every 5, 3 of every 5. You might be able to get an exception, like Anna said, if you've been there for a while, if it's obvious you didn't come in as an investor looking to kind of, game the system. But a lot of times there are still a lot of buildings out there you can sublet for 2 years only over the whole entirety of your ownership.
Yeah.
So that's a little stringent.
It depends on the size of, it doesn't depend on the size of the building, but I find that the larger buildings are way more strict because it's really, really hard to keep track of it all. But the more intimate buildings,
Interesting.
More intimate buildings, they know each other. There's a personal relationship.
But then those
and there's
are
a community.
A smaller building. I don't disagree with what you're saying in it, but then the smaller co-ops, they all are kind of looking for what the bank formula is to be able to either finance or refinance. That you have to have at least a 50%, 51% owner occupancy.
Yes.
So in the smaller
Yeah.
buildings, they might be
It
willing,
depends
but
on-
if there
yeah,
are
it
already
depends on
3
who
out
else
of 10
is-
units
Yes,
sublet,
that's
you
true.
can only do one more,
That's
and then
very
you're
true.
running into trouble.
In this current market cycle, what, in your opinion, is selling more, condo or co-op? Any particular type, and for any particular reason?
Mr. New Development condo here.
I'm enthralled with both right now.
I mean, I would say probably condo, simply because the function of the age of the product for co-op and the lack of imagination that
Or amenities and things
people
like that.
typically have, and
yeah.
people want amenities. And so the lack of amenities in general for co-op buildings, and the fact that most co-ops need work, which has sunk cost and time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they don't allow washer dryer units, central air, and that's
Washer
now
dryer is a
becoming like a
huge
given
thing.
for so many.
Right.
You have that. It is a given in most parts of the world. You go to the United States,
Correct.
into New York, and it's
Correct.
a
Yeah.
luxury. So yeah,
Pre-war,
that's more in the condos.
Pre-war, post-war, brand new development. We're going to talk about that after the break, Jordan. But pre-war, more available, more a choice than post-war. I mean, what seems to
I
be
think the hardest sale or getting your head around working with a buyer who wants like a 60s to 80s
Sure.
post-war
Yeah.
co-op. That's super cookie cutter,
Yeah.
red, white, or
The
yellow
white brick. Yeah.
low ceilings?
Low
Yes.
ceilings. I mean, look, if they
I want
if
them
they
8
don't
and under.
if they if they don't mind, I mean, we have to support what they want, but
100%.
those are the hardest.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a cookie cutter anymore.
Foreign international buyers, they come to New York, they want to buy an apartment for investment purposes or for their children or whatever.
Condo.
Okay, why?
Absolutely. For all the reasons, investment, foreign buyer, et cetera.
But the thing
I've done co-ops with that
you
too.
can do co-op.
I have two, but very, very
but-
few, probably like maybe 3 in 23 years. It's
One
a
of the-
lot of work.
One of the nice things about being so digitized anymore in our current environment as brokers is, frankly, the keyword search.
Sure. Yeah.
You can
Agreed.
just keyword on board approval. No board approval, you can type that in and pull up co-ops. And while they're not going to be as inexpensive as a traditional resale co-op, they'll still be cheaper than a condo.
Sure.
That depends on the broker inputting the information if they're smart enough.
I often
add that.
overlook it and overthink it too, but you're like, oh, that's right. You could do.
So for everyone listening
not
now,
done that.
keyword search,
Just go to
please.
keyword search
I've not
and no
done
board
that.
approval.
Exactly.
I don't trust it.
Right.
But maybe I'll give it a shot.
Well, can I ask a question?
I go through every single one and read. I don't read,
course.
but I skim and I look for like the keywords.
You read listing copy?
No, I look for the words washer dryer. I
they're
look for
too
the
long,
words
I don't
central
read them.
air. I look
Come now.
for
Yeah, yeah.
I look
Come
for board
now.
approval pets. There are keywords.
Right.
but I look for them myself.
Right.
So Vince, I don't know if you would plan to touch on this or not, but I am actually curious. Have you guys sold, in just your storied careers, have you sold a lot of land lease co-ops?
I have sold a
Several,
couple,
yeah.
not a lot.
Like some that are just regular leaseholders, or like, Battery Park City, or like Brooklyn Bridge Park, like, city entities that own?
Gramercy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The problem with land
Village.
lease is that
I hate them.
Well, I don't like them either, but you're starting out at an increased maintenance to begin
Always.
with because you're
But
paying
a
for
much
the land.
lower price.
At a
Oh,
lower
I can get a
price.
true 3-bedroom in prime Chelsea for $500,000. Yes,
Yeah.
because the maintenance is a crazy
$6,000 a
amount.
month.
Yeah,
Well,
more than that.
exactly. and that's the trade-off, right? We talk about trade-offs all the time. And, reselling, I have found, reselling somebody who
the
owns
biggest-
a land lease, it's a
That's
problem.
the
You
hardest
buy
one,
this
yeah.
and think that this could be your forever home. I
Yeah.
have this amazing couple I've been working with for
Yeah,
a while.
I'm not a big fan of
that
them.
they're trying to push me to a land lease. I'm like, okay. I went with them yesterday. I saw 4,000 square feet in the sky, amazing views, the most turnkey
Yeah,
place
no.
of the other
Let me
things that
guess,
we've been looking at.
$28,000 a month.
But yeah, I mean, it would be a $4 to $5 million apartment that they could get for close to 2.4.
Right.
But $15,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I would want to go into that.
it's
But
a lot.
not all land leases are created equal. Obviously,
No.
Correct.
Battery
No.
Park is owned by the city or the state.
Correct.
So that's
They're never
very
going
different.
to, because
They're-
that's the worst
yeah.
thing, right? Is that they're going to actually
They're gonna
not renew the lease,
expire.
and you have to move out, and you've lost everything.
But there are also
But-
some that have, 70, 80 years left on their lease, and the monthlies aren't that crazy. But then there are some, 50 Gramercy Park North. They were coming to the end of their land lease while I had
amazing location,
the penthouse
amazing
listing.
building and location.
Yeah, amazing building, beautiful views. I mean, on the park.
All right, we have to take a break. We're coming back after these messages. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. One more block to go. We're going to talk about new developments and what buyers are thinking about in today's world. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back for our last block. Tracy, let me just ask you quickly, what
Sure.
or who is our ideal co-op buyer today, in today's market cycle, and going forward?
Well, I have a feeling that Anna's going to say young couples, and I agree with her. Upwardly mobile.
Young couples starting families.
Oh, but
really-
I agree with that, though.
Yeah.
I think that's
people
true.
who have solid jobs, as much as we are open to the alternative income streams now, just someone who's been employed with the same company for years and has a lot of liquid assets. I'd say that's the most important thing.
I totally agree. Jordan, let's talk a little bit about new development. You, like me, do a lot of new developments these days and have. In your opinion, so it's new development condos, right? Easier process, easier transaction, easier. Well, there is no board approval in a brand new building until they start
resale,
reselling.
Yeah.
So your 2 cents on, the value of new condo development on the buy side versus what's out there existing already. What is the benefit?
So the value of purchasing a new development
Brand new.
condo versus a resale anything.
Correct.
You can sign, wire, and close within 24 hours. I mean, it's literally that quick. There's no board package. There's no
Right.
invasive procedure.
Right.
It's an LLC, non-revocable. Doesn't matter.
What
It's
about
literally
what about
that
the
simple.
newness
Everything is
aspect?
just-
Everything is easy. It's the most simple process you could possibly have, other than purchasing a single-family townhouse, which is actually the most simple form.
Agree.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was my last project. People come to you to look at your units because they're brand new.
You
I
have
used-
central air and heat. You have the
Well,
washer
and you
dryers.
have
You
the
have
washer
the
dryer.
amenities. You have the things that
But the
everyone
most
wants.
important thing was that I used to hear a lot, and maybe you do too. I want to be the first one living in
Yes.
this apartment.
Absolutely.
I want
Sure.
to buy it brand
People
new.
don't want
whatever.
used anymore. People
Right.
hate used. That's why people lease their vehicles as opposed to buy their vehicles.
I've always leased a car.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
started doing that years ago.
Right.
It makes the
But
most
now
sense.
that being said, and so I own 2 new construction in the city, there is always, maybe it's the best time to buy if you're the second person, because the first time, a lot of times there might be some issues with the developer. They're like, nothing is ever perfect. So you do have to go through a little growing pains being the first person in
Yeah, the
a
best time to buy a
property,
new
right? So there is-
development, I would say, is like 5 to 7 years in.
Correct, unless you do care about being the first person. Right.
I mean, I remember the days when new development in this town was first starting, and we're going way back to 2004 or 5, maybe. And I was
Yes,
selling buildings
exactly,
off of
2004.
floor plans.
Yes.
Okay,
There was no
people would
drone
come into a
views, there
room
were
like
no-
this and look at a kitchen, a bathroom. The tile on the floor was going to be in the entranceway, whatever.
Such a novelty. Yeah.
And then you could flip it and the sale and make big
But you
money
know how
before
good I used to
developers
feel?
stopped that.
I'd say to
They stopped
myself
to
when I
that.
went home at night, wow, if somebody could look at a piece of paper and just buy something for a lot of money off of
Yeah.
a floor plan.
Yes.
I did my job.
Yes, you did.
And the man on the corner over there, who I love dearly, who was still the head of our division, he'd say, "What's going on over there? Why are you selling so fast?" I'm like,
Because I'm good.
Because I'm a
don't know.
star.
Hello.
"I'm selling off a floor plan." Can you see yourself doing that today?
Selling off.
I would love to sell a building off a floor
If
plan.
it has the right address.
It depends on what the product is. It depends on the mix.
The friends
it
and
depends
family
on the
discount, the first
Depends
of
on.
your
There's no.
price.
No.
The
I disagree
builder's
entirely.
reputation.
There is no friends and family discount
anymore.
that will pre-sell off of floor plans. Off of floor plans is location, developer, provenance, and architect. You're talking about 80 Clarkson. You're talking about Jane Street. You're talking about these
Well,
new towers
yeah.
on
Yeah.
Fifth
Yeah,
and on
Clarkson.
Madison.
Sure.
Yeah.
Those will sell off floor plans. You're talking about
Stern, Naftali.
You're talking about making a
Naftali. Oy.
right?
Yeah,
you're
800
talking
Fifth.
about. There's no friends and family. That is, we're going to
Top
amend
dollar.
up. We're going to amend up. We're going to amend up. Friends and family, thing of the past.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
5% down
I don't
because
think-
like
but
they
yeah,
like
that's
you.
not-
I don't think
But
I'll be
15 to
good at
20
that.
now.
But for
Yeah.
the most part, Jordan, are you seeing in your new job that people like to be able to see the models, that they would even like to walk the actual unit that they would be
Oh,
buying?
of course.
I mean, it is.
It's for
God-
the
You have
view.
to
They
taste,
need to
touch,
walk it for
smell,
the view,
know.
and that's it.
the
Well,
And the light.
equivalent,
change. They
the
wanna see that.
equivalent
That's what
of selling off of floor plans now is being able to sell from a sales gallery.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent. Typically, you have to sell from the actual model units.
Right.
Right.
So that equivalent day to day is just being able to have an experiential sales gallery.
That one experience I had, we were in a sales gallery. It was only floor plans and a kitchen, mop kitchen, a bathroom, whatever. So you actually went in and saw the finishes and the fixtures and the whatever. But you didn't see the building. In fact, this one building I'm referring to in Hell's Kitchen was a hole in the ground. It wasn't even built yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go and see, all you can do is go and see the site, but you couldn't see anything, at all because there was nothing there.
When
So
I bought new
think
construction,
I think it's incredible.
for the first time here in the city in 2007, we didn't close till 2009. So after the craziness of 2008,
Yeah.
but there were no drone views. We were on the 9th floor. I happened to find a listing on the 10th floor of an adjacent building that the ceiling heights were about the same. I went to look at that and peered out the back to get a sense of what my view would be in mine, and that kind of like
Yeah,
suited me. That's what I had
you
to
have
do.
Yeah.
We've
Views
talked-
and light are very important.
Oh, totally. We've talked about, co-ops and condos. We've talked about a little bit about the marketplace. But in your opinion, 3 of you, very successful agents here in New York City, how important is it for buyers to align with agents to help them in their search, to show them the stuff that's going to work for them or not, then take them out? One of the things I like to do, and I teach this all the time, is I sit down with a buyer for the first time, when I get a first-time buyer, and say, okay, I think you said it before, Anna, I want a financial statement. I want to see that you're pre-qualified with a letter from a bank, or if it's cash, I need to see, proof of funds, because no one wants their time wasted.
Right.
I don't want to go out and show somebody something and say, I want to buy that, I can afford that, and then all of a sudden you give them a financial statement and they don't have any money.
I don't
or they
believe the
can't
old
afford it.
saw that buyers are liars, but sometimes they just don't quite understand
They
what
don't
They don't
understand.
they
understand.
mean
I
or what
totally
they should
agree
be
with that.
showing.
Or a
I
bank is
totally
giving
agree.
them information that doesn't quite
Exactly.
mesh with a
Right,
co-op.
right,
Correct.
right.
I
No,
mean,
I
a
agree.
lot of the thing is that the later you are in your career, the more that your source of buyer influx will
Referrals
pre-qualify.
and- yes, absolutely.
The source of the referral, where that client came from, will really screen the client for
Yeah,
you.
100%.
Right. When
That's a
you're
great
when you're
point.
first starting out, you really do sort of need to be a very
you can get.
stringent and really sort of demand, well, you must fill out this financial statement for
Right,
me, et
right,
cetera, et cetera, et
You
cetera.
must sign this form.
But your sphere of influence, right, or your referral source will will start to screen out these folks.
Absolutely.
And be
Inadvertently.
Yeah. And you'll begin to know, so that these difficult and frankly uncomfortable conversations where you have to tell somebody, frankly, you can't afford this or whatever, these will occur less and less the longer you are in this business, and you will
100%.
get a much better sense for what people can afford
And-
intuitively,
Yeah.
based off of their career, based on how they comport themselves,
Yeah.
based off of just
You
simply
do Google them, and
their
you're like, oh, okay.
acumen,
Yeah.
right? And just simply Google.
But so much of it is about delivery.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You don't say to somebody, you can't afford this.
Correct.
No.
You say, this building is just
For the
too
poor door.
strict.
Yeah.
It's
Hit the
how you-
poor door.
it's
Yeah,
how-
yeah,
it's
yeah.
how you
all
order
about
it.
the delivery.
Of course.
Yeah, you can't
You
afford
might
that.
just want to save a little longer
Although-
and see if you could get a better apartment.
You know, we've all had that conversation in
or
the
talk
past.
to family and
Yeah,
maybe get an
exactly.
influx.
Right.
Oh, that's my whole big thing is, it's a gift. And if it happens to turn into a loan after the co-op board approval process, the money goes back from whence it came. I don't care. I don't need to know. So what?
Well,
Who cares?
Exactly. But that's part of what we do as the expert and the credible source, the trusted source
Yes.
in our jobs, to make people feel that. And regardless of what we have to say to them, communicate it the right way, they're going to listen to it.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay attention to
Absolutely.
it. And they're going to take it for, what it is and where it comes from.
90% of the time.
90% of the time. Well,
That's
there's always
fair,
going to be that
Steve.
one or
That's a
two
fair
or five
statement,
that,
Hannah.
have their own
One or
whatevers.
two or
But
five.
but for the most part, listen, I've been saying, especially in this new world of real estate the last couple of years, it really is, we need to learn how to negotiate better. We need to learn how to communicate better, because it's really up to us.
Our
Because-
clients take their cues from us. If we get upset
100%.
and flustered, then that's how they're going to react. But if
Exactly.
But
we're
they're
calm and
they're
in control,
confused out there.
we can fix it. Everything is fixable.
I totally agree. What is the single most important advice? We only have a few minutes left.
No.
Advice that you've given to buyers or sellers in this market, in this current market. We can go back 23 years with lots of advice, but in this current market where, what did I say at the top of the show? Indecisive, a lot of indecision. People are confused. They want to
Wait
buy.
and see mode is still real.
Wait
Still
and
very
see mode
real.
is still real. What's the single most important advice you can give somebody today, whether it's a buyer or a seller, to make them feel better and to make them get more engaged in the process of what we do and call a real estate transaction? Jordan.
I mean,
very
it's
good
not
question.
it's not my job to make them feel better. I don't really care if they feel better. I think that they need to really know what the facts really are, and to not sugarcoat them and to give them the real.
No, sugarcoating
kindly,
not allowed.
Kindly,
I
right?
agree.
But my feelings really don't matter to me. I think that they need to understand what the truth of their real situation is, what the value of their property really is, and what they can hope for, what their objective is, and how quickly we can achieve that objective, and what the best and worst case scenario is for them. How long are they willing to wait to achieve their goals? Are their goals even remotely realistic, and on what timeline those goals are realistic?
Well, it's always about the goals and how
You know,
realistic they are.
Vince, wait, I
go
want to
ahead.
know what your answer to that question would be. What advice do you give?
I tell them we have to learn how, and I've just had this conversation last week. We have to learn and appreciate what a current market is,
Sure.
because everybody wants to have higher price, lower price. And I gave one example before, and I tell them, listen, we can all have aspiration, and we can all have aspirational pricing.
Absolutely.
But in this particular market, my advice to you is we cannot stay on the market past a certain point, because then everybody's going to look at that listing and say, there's something wrong with that. We all know what that means. Too long on the market. Forget about it. Move on. Yeah. Buyers are very sophisticated today. They have applications that they can go to look up property.
Sure.
They don't necessarily need us to do that for them. We can qualify. We can advise based on what they tell us. My advice always is, let's understand what the current market is. You may not like it. I certainly may not like it, but we have to understand what it is and treat it as such and take it as we go forward. We may change. We may put a price on a listing. It may change.
Yeah,
Of
that's
course.
exactly.
It's an art,
that's
not a
actually,
science.
That's exactly what I do. We have to
You have
educate
to.
ourselves on the market. Depending on when we're talking about pricing, I mean, I'm assuming we're talking about sellers here.
Yeah.
Depending when we're talking about pricing, by the time we actually go live, it could be a completely different market.
Absolutely.
One comp can change the entire
Absolutely.
valuation.
So you have to wait to check till right before
have
you
to-
list,
You have
right?
to wait
One
to
last
check.
sanity
Yeah.
check.
So I never, number one, I never give a price on a first pitch. Never.
No.
Smart.
Number two, whatever I do give is in a range, and there's always a caveat as to we have to relook at the numbers from scratch when we go live if we're not going live this week.
Smart, very smart.
Yeah. No,
and
it's
yes,
very
if we
true.
are, I mean, the number one thing I say to sellers is that sellers don't make the market, brokers don't make the market makes the market.
Yeah.
So, and it's exactly what
I
you're
think
saying,
one
Anna.
thing that we have the advantage of experience, and our people, our clients are hiring us because
Absolutely.
you can't really say to someone, just trust me. You can't do
Right.
that.
No.
But
Because we get it wrong sometimes,
we
right?
do get it wrong sometimes, but there's also a gut instinct that you have because we've been doing it for so
Yes.
long. You can't really lead with the gut. You have to lead with data. But the fact that people are hiring seasoned agents who know how to not necessarily price but strategize
Yes.
in any given market is they're actually starting that process by contacting us.
Correct.
So they have to trust their own instinct by hiring us in the first place.
Yeah, and we have to, as often as we can, get it right. As you said, educate yourself. Listen, the way we expect, or I expect my buyers or sellers to be educated on the market, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I need to be educated on the market. I need to know what's happening.
Absolutely.
I need to know, every day, every
Every day
week.
is a different thing. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
That's
I
why
read
they pay us
everything
the
that
not
comes
so big
across.
bucks.
Exactly. I mean, I read all the market reports, that we get here at our company, but also others, because people ask the questions. What's happening? Why does it seem so complicated out there? Why this and why that? Got to have an answer for them.
Absolutely.
One of the things they want from us, aside from our real estate knowledge, is our confidence and our credibility in explaining to them what it is we need to explain to them.
Well, actually,
and it goes all ways.
I have this amazing couple who are sellers of mine of a nice house on North Bay Road in Miami Beach. And we thought we had a price right within 2 weeks. We actually were in contract for our asking price of $6 million. And then unfortunately, the buyers changed their mind. And so now the market is showing that was kind of a one-off. It wasn't real. So we have to drop the price.
That's tough.
They are there with us. And in fact, they wanted to drop it to, after we'd agreed to 5.75, which is a healthy, after 2 months, the healthy thing to drop it to. Like, should we just go and go to 5.5? And I actually had to say, far be it from me to fight you on this, but I think that then sends the wrong message. You're not a desperate seller. I think, $250 in this price point is appropriate, but $500,000 would be too desperate, and you're going to really kind of undercut yourself.
I have
So
a
it's
condo on the
interesting you have
Lower
to
East
do
Side that I literally just had that exact conversation. I said, do not. We
Far be it
dropped
from me to fight a seller that wants to actually drop the price.
but it sends the
but
wrong message.
It sends the wrong message, and you're
and that
absolutely
we get
correct.
that with experience, not just, they want to cut the price. We're going to sell it now.
Yeah, we'll sell it quickly. Right.
And by the way, Tracy also sells in Florida, so if you didn't pick up on that, South Florida, give her a call.
Sunshine
Thank
Tracy.
you.
Sunshine.
Yes, yes.
never heard about that one.
Escaping back to that tomorrow morning,
Sunshine.
God willing.
Oh, you're going
Yes.
tomorrow morning?
Why else would I be here? For the show. And
I
the
told you
company,
before we
clearly.
started here on set that what are you doing
And
here?
because the
in
airport's shut
January?
down.
I don't usually get to see her till May, but here we are in January, right? All right, listen.
Talk to me about Florida.
Quick, we got 1 more minute left. Quick, where are we in this market? Where we're going in 2026? Forecast, your opinion.
Ooh.
We're going up, down, left, right, and sideways. It depends on what the product
Thank you, Magic
is.
8 Ball.
There's an answer.
It depends on what the product is and what you want to do with it.
But I will say I am very optimistic. It
I
has
am
started
too.
out January 5th.
I am
Everyone was
too.
like, this is the start of the first work week of 2026. And it has been bananas and bonkers
No,
since then.
I'm very
it's busy.
optimistic
I am
too.
too.
You can't be diversified enough. I will say
Agreed,
that.
yes.
You have to be in as
Correct.
many buckets as possible.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You got to
Yeah. Spread yourself as
That's
thin
right.
as possible.
Yep.
Don't put all your chips into any or
No.
eggs in baskets, whatever.
I will
Exactly.
say this is the first year in several years that I feel more optimistic, I think, about our market or where
Yes.
we've been, where we're going,
Yes.
than I have.
Politics aside, I'm just optimistic.
All of it aside, I think we're really starting out. Look, I've said for years, you can't keep buyers down in this town.
No.
You cannot. And so it's going to get, in my opinion, we're going to get to a point where there are going to be so many buyers pushing sellers to get that stuff listed and sell.
Yeah.
That's my hope, and that's my goal.
Well, Vince, I'm so sorry, just very quickly. I mean, it is the rental market. It is easier to be you can get better deals
Well,
as
that's
buyers than
crazy.
renters now. The
Yeah,
rental
yeah.
market is
Rental market is
insanity, but
insane.
I'm not mad at that. So,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, absolutely insane. I don't do a lot of rentals, but the few that I do touch, incredible. Okay, that's it. That's our show. Hope you enjoyed our former cast members here, who I wish can
Former
come
and
back
present.
more
Hey now,
often.
hey girl.
And we'll be right back with my final thoughts right after this.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my final thoughts. At the end of the day, the condo versus co-op decision in New York City isn't about which option is better. It's about which one fits your lifestyle. Condos offer flexibility, speed, and fewer barriers to entry, but often at a higher cost. Co-ops demand transparency, patience, and alignment with the building's culture, yet they continue to offer value, stability, and a strong sense of community. What still strips buyers up is not the rules themselves, but unrealistic expectations. When buyers understand how they plan to live, how long they plan to stay, and how much flexibility they truly need, the decision becomes far clearer. In a city as complex as New York, there is no one-size-fits-all path to ownership. The decision is one that aligns their finances, lifestyle, and long-term goals with the reality of the building, not just the allure of the listing. And that clarity, more than anything else, is what leads to a confident purchase in today's market. And that's our broadcast for this episode today of Talking New York Real Estate. As we head into a new year, remember, it's not about grand promises or overnight change. It's about intention, choosing clarity over noise, growth over comfort, and being deliberate with how we show up every day. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, or Substack at Vince Rocco. And Norman Vince Appeal said, shoot for the moon, everyone. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful. Thank you for listening, watching, and being a part of the conversation. If this episode brought value, share it, subscribe, and keep asking the questions that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep finding your space. I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.